Let's look at the origin of humans with fresh eyes. I'm going to look at Genesis chapter 1, the part about God creating humans, and we're going to ask some questions that people don't usually ask. I designed these discussion questions that you can print off or pull up on your phone and talk about this in a small group or have some friends over, have a beer, have coffee. The whole point is to enable you to make alternative forms of churches and small groups that fit you, whether you go to church or not. So you can get these at bereaministries.org. I'm going to walk you through one of the discussion guides right now. It's number 3 in the overview of the Bible series. All right, so these sheets start out with like a casual icebreaker just so you can kind of get to know each other and get talking. And the first question is, what do you know about your ancestry or family history, and does it matter to you? Why? Part of that's to get you thinking about where we come from and what that has to do with your identity. How much does that play into your identity? Funny story from me. I actually thought I was German for a long time because of my last name. My whole family, we all thought we were German. And then one day my sister-in-law got on Ancestry Tree and did the whole DNA study. And it turns out we're probably Swiss, and our ancestors moved to Germany and then moved to America. So I found out that my ancestry was not what I thought it was. It didn't have a huge effect on my identity because there's lots of pieces to our identity. But that was kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, I found out something about my origin that I didn't know. After that, question number 2 is going to ask, how much does your past affect how you see yourself now? That's kind of a deeper question. You can throw your answers to these questions in the comments if you want, but in your group, share if you're comfortable. You don't have to make it too deep. Then we're going to go into the story about the origin of humans in Genesis chapter 1 in the Bible. Inevitably, someone is going to bring up evolution. And they're going to ask, well, how does this fit in? Or maybe the story about God making humans from dust, maybe that's not true. Maybe evolution is true. Well, I'm going to challenge you to try to open it up so anyone can throw out any idea. You want your people to be honest, and you want them to wrestle through questions. Now, as we looked at metaphors in Genesis 1 in one of the previous videos, there's a lot going on here. So we should think about not what we think the story means, but how an ancient person would have viewed this story. What is the underlying concept of this? Well, the whole point that they're trying to make here is that God created humans. How he did that is not necessarily the important part. The important part is establishing that humans are created by God and have this relationship with him. So that should open up some doors there. Maybe this chapter is not trying to explain the science. Maybe people wouldn't even know what science was. Think about it. If ancient people had a story about evolution, they wouldn't even have been able to understand what in the world was going on there. Or they'd think it was crazy, right? So this book probably wasn't written with science in mind. So be flexible. Doesn't mean you don't think the story is true, but get people thinking about, okay, what's the point of the story? Because that is the critical piece. And now, as to the point of the story, what is the purpose of humans? All right, there's a difference, and I put this in question number 3. There's some cultural context that is really important here. There's a difference between the origin of human story in the Bible and other ancient religions. In other ancient religions, the gods got tired of growing their own food and managing creation, so they created humans to be slaves, to work the earth for them and to grow food for them while they lived in gardens on mountaintops in a paradise. But the reason the story in the Bible was like so countercultural, right, was because instead of being slaves, humans were made as co-rulers of the earth. Like God says, work the earth and subdue it. Like humans were created to actually improve the earth because it was not made perfect. There was another word when it says, God created the earth and it was good. There was another word that meant perfect in Hebrew, and that's not what the Bible says. It just says good. So one has to wonder, okay, why didn't God create the earth perfect? He didn't make it perfect. He made it so it could be improved, and that was our job. We're supposed to be kings of the earth, co-rulers of the earth with God. So that was a big distinction between other religions and Judaism and Christianity, which come out of this story. That's fascinating to think about. Now think about what being a king or a co-ruler of the earth might mean in terms of our purpose. Now don't think of king in terms of like earthly king, like ruling with an iron fist. Think about a king in terms of managing the earth. Like you're God's representative and you're supposed to manage everything that's here, right? So then I'm going to go into question number 6 here. If humans were actually created to rule the earth as kings or managers, do you think we've done a good job? Ouch. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I don't think we're doing a very good job. I mean, if I look around at the context of life right now, I mean, a lot of people aren't getting along. We're having a hard time making decisions about how to take care of other people, the economy, nature, things like that. So some people are trying, but we could do better. So then I'm going to shift into thinking, okay, well, is there something we could do if we're thinking about ourselves as managers or like co-rulers of the earth? Is there something we could do to better manage the earth right now? Now, this whole concept plays into our future. So you think about heaven. Some people will say that, oh, in heaven all we do is we sing worship songs. And other people are like, wow, that sounds really boring. I don't want to go to heaven. Well, you're in luck, because that's not exactly what heaven is going to be like. Because this work concept, this king's concept, carries over into heaven. There's some really cryptic, weird scriptures about like, we're going to judge the angels. I think Paul says like, don't you know you're going to judge angels? Don't worry about some of these silly things you're bickering about. Well, that means we're actually going to make decisions. There's going to be some kind of governing system or council that is good. Like there's going to be stuff to do, work, not in the same way of you think of work on earth where it's like, oh, I don't want to go to work, but like meaningful, purposeful, good things to do, shared responsibility. So that's fascinating. You're going to rule over angels, and that's actually what heaven's going to be like, and that suggests that there might actually be free will in heaven to some extent. Like, it might be better than this place, but you still have choice. So you can see how these concepts in Genesis chapter 1 really affect how we view the rest of the story in the Bible. A lot to talk about. So I hope that you can sit down with someone or even just print this sheet off yourself and go through it. And you put any comments that you have in the comments section below. And if you have any questions, you want to contact me, my email is breweryministries@gmail.com. Our goal is to help you make your own alternative forms of church for people who haven't explored this story before, or people who just want to go deeper. So pull this up on your phone, get creative, make your own groups, and let's figure out what this thing means together.